if there was a devil, it would be isolation. If you're laying in bed in the morning with the sheets over your head, afraid to get out of bed, I challenge you, it's because you're not doing what you were meant to do. If we're not in the now, living right now, then we're missing out. I've built 2 7-figure businesses, but I've started about 15 or 16 failed businesses.
That part of your 2 successes is actually 15 failures.
Did you know that Walt Disney went bankrupt multiple times? I have a lot of energy, in case you can't tell. I used to use drugs and alcohol to discipline my energy. That doesn't work. People say, I don't have the energy to work out. Well, the irony is if you work out, you'll have more energy. The idea of meditation is not to control your mind. It's to not let your mind control you.
Hi everyone, my name is Toms. This is Love Your Stress podcast, and today we have my friend here, Dennis. We're going to talk about stress management, and loving ourselves in a fun and conscious way. So yeah, Dennis, just introduce yourself. Let us know who are you, what makes you tick, and what makes your life so fun and interesting.
Wow. Well, that's the whole podcast right
Yes,
there.
exactly.
Yeah, well, for in a nutshell, to start out, I've been sober almost 20 years. And the reason I lead with that is because it led me down a path to be a life coach for addiction recovery, which I started doing in about 2005 is when I started coaching and helping people into sobriety, recovery, and just overall emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, mindfulness, meditation, that type of stuff. But more recently, because along the way over those years, I also got into business and sales and marketing. I've started a couple 7-figure businesses, and I've since brought that background into a business coaching, because I believe I'm as an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur myself. I know what it takes to become successful, and along the way, there's lots of failures and challenges and mistakes, and so staying strong emotionally along the way really helps. So that's what I do. I help entrepreneurs grow, either build or grow their business with an awesome system of the complete system you need to know to build a 7-figure business.
Sounds great. And before we start discussing anything about podcast, I love to always get on the same page. So the first question I always ask is, how would you define stress in your own words?
Stress.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different definitions. I think that stress, a lot of the times when I find I'm stressed, it's because the world changed and I didn't change along with it. I'm attached to outcomes. I think that people are supposed to behave a certain way. I'm supposed to have a certain amount of money or look a certain way or be surrounded by certain friends or have a certain house or a certain car. And when I can let go of some of those attachments and realize that things are the way they are right now in this moment and move from this moment, I become less stressed, as opposed to being attached to things that happened in the past or the way things might be in the future. So staying present is really helpful.
That's a nice definition, especially you bring one of my mantras, be present, in there. How do you see that manifesting in your life?
Being present?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's everything. And to paraphrase Eckhart Tolle, everything happens in the now. Nothing happened in the past. It happened in the now. And nothing's going to happen in the future. It's going to happen in the now. So if we're not in the now, living right now, then we're missing out on valuable moments of our life, on time, which is all we have. Our most valuable asset is time. It's not our money or our cars, our investment accounts, or our houses. It's time. It's all we have. So with that in mind, how are you spending your time? How are you spending your most valuable asset? Are you spending it worrying about what people think about you? Or if you're 5 pounds overweight, or if you have enough money? Or are you being present and loving yourself and caring for yourself and moving from that place of now?
Yeah, that's very strong. Eckhart Tolle is also one of my inspirations. He has a really powerful way of shifting one's perspective on presence and bring awareness to whatever's happening in and now. Because you said everything happens only now.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen in another way. So that, since your topic is stress related, it's because of that. I challenge you, if you're laying in bed in the morning, which, millions of people are, with the sheets over your head, afraid to get out of bed because you don't want to go to that job or you're afraid of this or that. I challenge you, it's because you're not doing what you were meant to do here in this lifetime. And we get attached to, I have to do this, I have to do that. And to go into stuff from Alan Watts, I don't know if you ever listened to Alan Watts from years ago. It's like we get into this mindset that we have to win and we have to survive, and we take life so seriously. And when we approach life from that angle, life is kind of a drag. It's like, I have to win, I have to survive, I have to go to this job, I have to look like this, I have to do this. And when we fall short, which we always do, because living up to those types of expectations is nearly impossible, because we're always comparing ourselves to somebody we see on Instagram who doesn't look like that anyway, then we fall short. And then that causes stress, anxiety, fear, insecurities, heartache, all those things. And if we can't redirect our thinking and get back into that present moment, into the now, we suffer. And then we need Xanax, or we need to drink, or we need to eat chocolate or watch porn, or any of these distractions to keep us from feeling that pain.
I like how you linked presence with your definition of stress, that attachment and feeling dragged down. Do you have any nice story to share from your life regarding this?
Regarding what specifically? I'm sorry.
Feeling of being dragged down and how you get out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, my whole my whole early existence was a struggle. If we go back, I'll give like the 3-minute version of decades of living. When I was 5 years old, my grandmother said to my mother, "He worries like a little old man." At 5 years old, I was already full of all those feelings I just described: the stress, the fear, the insecurity, the anxiety, at 5 years old. But I had zero coping skills, like many of us. Most of us really don't at that age. And then enter like childhood wounds, where we get those fears of rejection, abandonment, betrayal, those types of things. But along the way, some people develop healthy coping skills, and I never did. So when I was 15, you fast forward 10 years, I took my first drink, and I was like, like that was my relief. I was like, I don't have to feel that way, that pain anymore. I don't have to feel anything anymore. This is great. So I followed that path for the next 16 years and really just dragged my life down. The failures, the health problems, the broken relationships, the bankruptcy, the financial problems, everything, just going down the pit of despair. And so finally at the end, at 31 years old, and I'm 50 now, finally at the end, I was completely bankrupt, as they say, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, everything bankrupt. So it was from that place I was able to rebuild my life. And, just because I say that doesn't mean it just happened quick. If we go back to more wisdom from thousands of years ago, the only constant in our lives is change. So, we set on a path. I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm sober now. I stopped drinking. Now life's going to be perfect. That's not the way it goes. The reason I drank is because life changes and it's imperfect all the time. But now I've developed new coping skills along the way, healthy coping skills to get through those challenges. And so when you say, is there a specific example? My whole life is an example. I've tried many, I opened this conversation with, I've built 2 7-figure businesses, but I've started about 15 or 16 failed businesses along the way. So, yeah, we try, we fail, we fall short, we learn, we grow, hopefully, along the way. And that's how you live a successful life. You know, that's a reality from an optimistic point of view. You know, it's not pessimistic or negative thinking. It's just being realistic and growing along the way.
I love how you mentioned life is success is part of success is also failures. That part of your two successes is actually 15 failures, just to
Uh,
put everything in perspective.
yeah, you know, I love one of my. I talk about this frequently. Is like, did you know that Walt Disney went bankrupt multiple times
Yeah,
before he built his empire? And Dr. Seuss was rejected by dozens of publishers before he was picked up. Oprah was fired from her job as a news anchor, and she was told by that employer that she would never have a career in television. You know, Jeff Bezos started Amazon as a used bookstore in his garage. You know, so the way we start things isn't how they end up. So life is always evolving and changing. So when we have an understanding of that and we can remain present, we can adapt to those changes without the stress and the fear and the addictions and the distractions and the anxiety and the insecurities, and set realistic expectations to help get us where we want to go.
that's a good point. And before you mentioned that you have now you have better coping tools than you had before. What would be your top list of those things that are most useful and impactful?
Yeah, you're a great host. You know that? I really love that. I mean, you ask really relevant, powerful questions. So you're a great host. One, I like to lead with, you know, I have a lot of energy, in case you can't tell, right? So
I like
I
it.
used, right, I used to use drugs and alcohol to discipline my energy. And so that doesn't work for me. You know, I'm not mad at alcohol. I think alcohol is great, actually. It does what you want it to do. It's kind of a release, you know? Oh, let's go to happy hour and have a martini. I can't do that because I would have 8 martinis and then let's go get an 8-ball and snort some cocaine. So that's why I can't do that, right? But what happens now is I still have that energy and I need to discipline my energy. And we all have a certain level of energy. And I think if you really focus on health and wellness and mindfulness and meditation and healthy coping skills, you will have more energy. People say, I don't have the energy to work out. Well, the irony is if you work out, you'll have more energy, right? That's how it works. If you eat well, you'll have more energy. If you stay hydrated and drink lots of water, you'll have more energy and your organs will work better. Everybody says, I have a slow metabolism. Well, speed it up. You know, if you go for a walk, your metabolism is going to increase. Your organs will work better and function better. You'll lose some weight and you'll feel better. And then you can walk farther or do whatever other things it is that you want to do. So to answer your question, it's win the morning, win the day. When I wake up in the morning, it's like I meditate, I drink tons of water, I exercise, I read, I write, and I get focused and centered. Because if I'm not focused, I'm unfocused, right? If I don't know where I'm going, I'm going to end up someplace else. Before I go to bed at night, I write down my intentions for the next day. So when I wake up in the morning, I look at my intentions. They're like, all right, I need to contact these 3 people. I need to work on this, 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 and this. And now I have direction. If I wake up in the morning and turn on Facebook and see my family's political views, then I get angry and that's the way my day goes. It's up to us how we want our day to go. So that's how I cope today. And you know what? The other thing, first of all, meditation is an integral part and should be an integral part of everybody's lifestyle. And you don't have to go sit in the cave in the Himalayas for 3 months in orange robes to meditate. You can meditate at a red light. You can meditate on the toilet. You can meditate in bed or on your favorite chair, right? You don't have to be sitting in the lotus position with incense burning, right? That's one way of meditation. But all meditation is just calming down, you know? It goes a lot deeper than that, and we can have many episodes just on that. I have a whole class on mindfulness and meditation on my website in Life Mastery School, where I have tons of videos on it. But the idea of meditation is not to control your mind. It's to not let your mind control you, right? So if I develop healthy habits and coping skills, my mind doesn't control me. The thoughts come in and out, and I just let them go peacefully, you know? Oh, here's an angry, resentful, unproductive thought. Oh, look at that. Okay, let it go, right? If I dwell on it, that's the way my day goes.
I love how you answered giving tools, and also I was about to ask you what's meditation for you, and you already answered that on the way. So I really appreciate you explaining it, because quite often I do notice people, when you say meditate, what does it mean? And then they have this really like this yogi sitting under the tree with incense, as you said, and that's not for me. That's not meditation. Of course, they don't start it, but I love how you gave the example.
Yeah,
Just
and
watching the red light.
yeah, and if we go back, remember, like when all these religions were started, built, whatever, thousands of years ago, they didn't have traffic and retirement plans and all this shit that we have to worry about nowadays. They were like, am I going to eat today? That's what they had. They're like, I'm going to sit under this tree for 6 hours and think about that, right? That's what they had, a different life. They still had the human condition. They still had stress and fear and anxiety. We all want to be somebody, right? We all want to be comfortable and stuff like that. But they didn't have the marketing campaigns that we're exposed to in everything we do. We turn the computer on, the phone on, the TV on, Netflix. Everything we do is a path to marketing. It's a path through a marketing channel to get us to buy something. Oh, well, you're overweight, so you need this diet plan. Oh, if you don't have $2.5 million in the bank by the time you're 40, you're a failure. So you need to talk to this person to fix that, right? So the times are different. There's an old Buddhist quote. It says, everybody should meditate for at least an hour a day, unless you're really, really busy, and then you should meditate for 2 hours. And that's the truth. We think, oh, I have so much to do, I'm so overwhelmed. The more you have to do, the more you should practice non-doing, right? Because then it's in the doing that you do is going to be more productive and more meaningful. You're going to make less mistakes, and you're going to get where you want to go quicker.
I really love how you also touched upon subject of having lots of energy and needing to deal with it. And you already mentioned exercises, eating healthy, drinking lots of water, and meditation. I was curious, how did you start the journey? Like when you were just starting out, did you start with exercise, or was there something else that helped you with coping?
Yeah, great question. Early on, so my journey really began with my sobriety, which again was April 2003. So almost it's creeping up here on 20 years. And when I started, people think that sobriety, that journey in sobriety or addiction recovery or whatever it is you're recovering from, it's about not drinking. But it's not about not drinking. It's about growing up. It's about taking care of responsibilities, looking life in the eye, looking the world in the eye. And but it took me a little while after sobriety, after stopping drinking, to realize that, right? That I have to be an adult now at 31. And that's painful, to grow up in your 30s and 40s and beyond. I have clients that are in their 70s that I work with that haven't pulled that off yet, So it started for me when I'm going to send you, maybe you could put in the notes somewhere. I'm going to send you pictures of me when I was back in, 25 years ago, when I was drunk. I was 70 pounds heavier than I am now, which is about, I think you're in kilos. So it's about 30 kilos heavier than I am now. And for me, it was like a combination of a lot of things. It was reading, having an open mind. In my book, I talk about a concept called the how approach to life. People always say, Dennis, how do I get sober? How do I lose weight? How do I start a business? How do I change my life? And the answer to that question is in the question. How? And it stands for HOW, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I have to first say, all right, I have to honestly admit that there's something wrong, right? If I have my ego in the way and I don't have the humility to say, hey, this isn't going well, then I can't change it because I can't fix a problem I can't admit exists. And then once I become honest, I become open to a new way of living and new way of seeing things. And to listen to other people's points of views and to read and to write and to exercise and to drink lots of water and to take care of myself. And then once I'm open, I become willing to apply those things into my life. And once I put that how approach into place, then things start to change. And oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the question. I was talking too much.
The question was, I forgot as well.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, hopefully that answered it. I mean,
it was about what were the first things that helped you
right.
And
Yeah.
I already noticed that you went straight into the mindset.
Yeah.
With answering
the mindset. Yeah, I mean, it's really everything. And then what happened was I was so unhealthy. And if you look at the picture I'll send you, I had dark black and purple circles under my eyes. I was unhappy and unhealthy. I would wake up in the morning and say, and look in the mirror and cry and just say, I'm never going to drink again. And then I would walk to the freezer and pull out the last shot I left before I passed out of whiskey and take that shot. And then I would throw up and then I would light up a cigarette. Like the man you see in front of you right now is not who I used to be. And so for me, I take a very holistic approach to my practice with the people that I work with. And holistic is a big buzzword that people throw around nowadays. People are holistic. And what does holistic mean? And people think it has this spiritual connotation and all these like crazy meanings, but all holistic means is whole. Holistic comes from a root word. It's an old English word, HOL, meaning whole. Now we spell whole, WHOLE, but holistic simply means whole. So we take a whole approach, a whole life approach, holistic approach to building a better life. So just because you start a business doesn't mean that we're only going to talk about business. The business is one part of a whole success story, a whole successful person, right? So I need to exercise. I need to read and expand my mind. I need to meditate and stay calm. So when the challenges of building and growing a business come, which they come every day, then I'm in a centered place where I can handle and find solutions to those.
That's very interesting. And when you talk about whole and wholeness, it brings to my mind that yoga is all about that. Do you practice any yoga?
I don't, years ago I did for a little while, and I don't specifically practice yoga, but I do my own dentist yoga.
What does that mean?
Well, I'm constantly stretching and getting centered and focused, and I'm very flexible, and I do that. I combine my body and my mind into my life and all throughout the day.
That's a great answer. Basically, you're practicing yoga. Congratulations. That is yoga.
Yeah, but no, not I don't practice in a formal setting.
Yeah.
But I have. Yeah, it's great. Yoga, Pilates, all those things are great. I think for one of the things for me is I want to get to a place where I can navigate life successfully without outside influences. It's nice to have those in order to grow and expand yourself, but to feel complete and whole, that wholeness we're talking about. So I love being with people and I love being alone. And it's great to be able to do that. I've also over the years done a lot of relationship coaching to where And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people are unhappy being alone.
Mm.
So they grab somebody who there's a quick connection with, even though it's not the right person, just to not be alone. And then after you have sex a lot for a couple months, then some of that wears off. And then you're just stuck with this person who isn't quite as perfect, just so you don't have to be alone. And then you drag that on for years. And that's why a lot of relationships are unhappy. So if we can get to a place where we're really comfortable being alone, and we could practice all these principles that you and I are talking about right now, the wellness, the meditation, the mindfulness, the reading, the writing, the expanding, the growing, our body, mind, and spirit, our lives are nice. We have nice lives. Yeah.
I love how you brought up the topic about being comfortable, being alone. And it also brings one of the stress management tips of not being alone, because when you're stressed, you want to be alone, and that doesn't bring you any good. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, that's a great topic. So there's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
Mm.
And I think that it's important to and also let's throw in being alone, being lonely, and isolating.
Mm.
Right? Those are all different topics, and we could have multiple episodes on all of this stuff too, because this is great. You know, I don't believe in religion per se, but if there was a devil, it would be isolation.
Mm.
If there's really a hell, like, it would be isolation. And the reason is because my tendency, my natural instinct when things aren't going well and I'm overwhelmed and stressed out and anxious and fearful, is to sit at home by myself in a corner and try to figure it out by myself. And that gets me in a lot of trouble, right? I don't know the solutions. So when I try to figure it out and I fill myself with more fear, worry, anxiety, insecurity, and stress and heartache, then all of a sudden I'm drinking, or I'm eating a pound of chocolate, or watching porn, or watching 6 hours of Netflix marathons. You know, these are all distractions from feeling, when I can just ask for help, right? Or surround myself with like-minded people, expand my mind and my way of thinking, and find the answers. You know, more Alan Watts stuff. You know, a lot of our stress and problems come from not exploring things at depth. You know, everything is, oh, I heard this, and we don't check our sources. I saw it on Facebook, it must be true, because somebody I don't know 8,000 miles away said it, you know. So we don't explore things all the way through, and then we develop you know, strange opinions, or get attached to strange realities that are going on that aren't actually true. And if I'm sitting in this world isolating and lonely and not trying to expand my life, then I get into stress. I get into fear and anxiety. But if I can get into a place where I can navigate through those things, and we live in a great time right now. People complain a lot, but it's the best time to be alive. With the technology and stuff, we don't have to be alone. We don't have to be lonely, I should say. We don't have to isolate. We can hop on a Zoom call with somebody, anybody. There's apps that will connect you with somebody to talk to, right? And but getting to a place where you're comfortable to be alone is a magical place to be. And that's when you have the most successful relationships. You know, when you have two people that are comfortable being alone or together, then you have a successful relationship. When you have two people that are afraid of being alone, that are just with somebody just to not be alone and have to think and worry, that's when you have unhealthy relationships. And people hang on to those unhealthy relationships for decades and wonder why it doesn't work. Well, because it wasn't love, it was loneliness. And that goes much deeper too. We just created at least a dozen episodes of your podcast.
Definitely. And I really love how you mentioned the part of definition of devil, of being isolation.
Yeah. Yeah. I spend a lot of time isolating, and I don't do that anymore. I'm aware of it when that happens, and I call people. I think that there's a good power in being able to navigate things on your own. I think
Hmm.
there's a great maturity there, and a great awareness, and a great uh, it's a great attribute to have, to be able to be alone. But it's also great to realize the difference when you cross that line from being alone to loneliness and isolation, and to reach out and ask for help. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness, especially for men. We're taught, don't cry, don't ask for help, just figure it out. There's certain things that we need to figure out on our own. We need to learn to fly. But if we don't know all the answers, we can ask. And if we don't ask, we stay stuck, sometimes for years. So just reach out, ask for help. If you don't know how to do something, you see, you're young. Years ago, there wasn't Google Maps and all these other apps. We had to stop and ask directions. And there was always a stereotype that men don't stop and ask directions. And so it was funny because I was always one of those guys that stopped and asked for directions. Because I was like, I would rather get there in 5 minutes than drive around in circles for 2 hours. Right? It's so much easier to ask for help. And we have access to the internet, which again, check your sources for the answers you're looking for. But um, we can find the answers to anything we're looking for if we do the research. It's at our fingertips, literally.
Hmm. That's true that the amount of information and support we have these days is a lot more than before,
Yeah.
especially when we're isolated.
Yeah. Isolation it's a very harmful. It's a tough place to be. And from that stems depression, because we think nobody understands. And then you go to the doctor, and then here's a pill. And that puts you deeper into isolation, because then you don't care. So there's no growth. So I mean, it goes deep. There's a lot of problems in the world right now. We can't solve them all we could do is take care of ourselves, and we do that by taking a holistic approach. This is the answer. People are looking for a shortcut. Some business stuff to get into, which we can dive into, is always like, the value of a product. So like, there's exercise. You can go to the gym and you can have a gym membership. Maybe it's $50, and you can sign up for a boot camp, and you could do all these things. And that might cost $50 a month, $30, $100, whatever it is. But you have to work. Or you can go get liposuction, and that costs 50,000. But they knock you out, you wake up thin. So people are willing to pay 50,000 to have them stick vacuums inside your body and cut your skin and do all this stuff, because they don't want to go to the gym and live a healthy lifestyle. But the value is there, right? Same with Xanax and meditation, right? So you can meditate and stay calm and centered, do that for 30 to 60 minutes a day or more. You can't over meditate, and eventually come to a place of calmness and understanding of you and your place in the world, and really navigate through harmful feelings and emotions. Or you could take a Xanax, right? And that's why Xanax is a multi-billion-dollar company, and there's no multi-billion-dollar meditation companies.
Yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Tom's meditation is going to be the first multi-billion-dollar meditation company. Tom's yoga.
Everything's possible.
Everything's possible. Yeah.
Another question I like to ask is, what's your opinion about love your stress? How would you reflect on
It's
that?
about what? I'm sorry.
The topic, love your stress. How would you reflect on that?
Love your stress.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I would say it's to embrace it. Again, if we go back to well, there's a lot we could really I love this stuff. This is great. I could talk Now
Yeah.
you're like, oh, he talks a lot. There's a couple of things. One is since this is your world, you probably know this, the natural stress response,
Mm,
or the stress cycle, right?
mm,
The natural stress cycle of the human. So it used to be thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, it was like there's a perceived threat. Oh, I'm going to get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. So our body, our kidneys, our adrenals spit out adrenaline and cortisol, right? And the adrenaline's like, oh my God, I'm going to get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. So I need to run. And it spits out pain blockers. And so you can run through a forest barefoot, because we didn't have Nike back then. And you could bang your knee on a tree and not feel the pain. And you could be bleeding and keep running. It's your body protecting you. That's the adrenaline. And it also spits out cortisol, which is the stress hormone, right? And so those things in tandem kept us safe. So in that respect, the stress was good. It protects us. We need to stress. There's good stress, which we need, which protects us. After that incident, after the saber-toothed tiger went away, or that loud noise in the dark alley in New York City, or whatever it is that your perceived threat is, our bodies return to normal. Our heartbeat goes down, we stop spitting out cortisol and adrenaline, and we become relaxed. And then we go about our day, and we used to just move beyond it. But now in 2022, we never get back to normal. We're in a constant state of stress and panic. And that's why stress actually physically kills you. I mean, we see that in blogs all the time and hear about it, but it's the truth. It's physically killing you because we're constantly shooting out cortisol, and we never return to normal. We're in a constant state of panic. Again, let's go back to marketing. If you don't have $2.5 million in your bank by the time you're 40, you're a failure. Oh my God. Now I can't sleep. So now my sleep is off. So I'm going to look at my phone at midnight. So now my brain's not producing melatonin anymore, right? So, I mean, it's this whole cycle of staying sick 24 hours a day. And it all adds up. And then we start drinking. And then we need pills. And then we get stoned. And then we do all these other things rather than sit in calmness, meditate, read, learn a solution to pull you out of your problem, and move forward. I mean, it's really a simple solution, but we have to a lot of what I teach, we're not learning anything. We're unlearning. We're unlearning the harmful beliefs and behaviors that were taught to us, whether intentionally or unintentionally, decades ago. When we develop our subconscious mind between the ages of 0 and 18, really the ages of 0 and 6. When we're not qualified to develop those types of beliefs and behaviors. We go into a state of survival and panic and fear at a young age, and we develop skills to cope and survive at 4 years old. And then we carry those into our 30s. And they don't work in our 30s, the crying and tantrums and screaming, but we don't know how to handle it. So we drink, or watch 8 hours of Netflix, or eat a pound of chocolate, or sit at Chick-fil-A at 3 p.m, even though we're not hungry, right? All these things just to get through the day. So embrace your stress. First of all, awareness, back to the how approach to living. It's like, all right, I'm stressed out. Can I honestly say, I'm stressed out? Great. Well, it's okay. Now what? Now I'm stressed out. My whole life is over. We catastrophize everything, right? So if we can get to a place of center and realize that life isn't over, it's actually okay. Let's just get centered. Where am I right now? And let's move from that point. Because if I don't know where I am right now, it's hard to take that first step if I don't know where I'm standing right now.
Yeah, I really love your answer, how you bring everything back to taking responsibility, embracing whatever you have in your life. And
Yeah.
after you have that awareness, you can be present to it without comparing or over dramatizing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing people don't like to come to grips with is, and I heard this a long time ago. My brother is one of my biggest mentors in my life, and he's very wise. He makes lots of money, but he's also very grounded. He can separate the stuff from what's really going on. But early on, he taught me about there's a old I don't know what you would call him. He was like a teacher, an old teacher. But he said, and this is no ancient secret or no modern secret. Nothing is new, right? All this stuff is old human condition stuff. But I am responsible for every circumstance of my life. That's a hard one to really grasp onto. I am responsible for every circumstance of my life. Because if I'm not responsible, then I have to wait for other people to change in order for me to be happy. And that's really unlikely to occur. So I need to get to this place where I understand that I'm responsible for my own happiness, my own well-being, my own wealth, my own health, my own this, for the people I hang around with, like all these things, I'm responsible. Once I accept that, then I can make changes. Right? If I can't accept that, I can't make changes and I stay stuck. And I drink and watch 8 hours of Netflix, play video games, numb out, anything to not have to feel and really face what it is I need to do to become successful or healthy or happy.
I really love your answer, how you link together the taking responsibility and owning it. Yeah. And with that note, I would love to ask you 2 final questions here. One of them is, do you have any recommendations who I could else invite for the next podcast episode to discuss Love Your Stress?
I do, but I'll have to think about it and email you.
Okay, awesome.
Sure.
And this last question is, what's the best way for people to reach out to you who want to either work with you or just reach out to figure out?
Yeah, sure. Well, the very best way is at my website, which is dennisberry.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can reach out there too. But dennisberry.com, you can schedule a free session and we could talk for a little bit. You can buy my book, you can listen to the podcast, you can watch Life Mastery School, which is a series of videos, which I mentioned earlier. There's one series on addiction recovery. There's one on love and relationships. There's one on mindfulness and meditation, and one on health and wellness. And then pretty soon is coming the business school that I'm working on right now. So they're all currently free, but we're moving to a paid model soon. So hop in there and watch them right now. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm always around to help.
Awesome. So thank you much, Dennis. It was really nice and fun to have you here, and see you around.
Same to you, Toms. I really enjoyed it. You're a great host.
Thank you.